Oh, we didn't say
And then-
we have anything to talk about.
I can talk about a lot of stuff, so. I had a lot
Oh, yeah,
going
we
on
can
this
talk.
past
Yeah,
week, so.
absolutely.
Yeah, I do want to hear that.
Let's catch up and be friends.
It's just about
Why can't we be friends? Why
I don't even know
can't
how you
we
sing
be
this.
friends?
because you sing all the time.
Damn!
Wow! Hot
Damn!
take. Nathan hates singing.
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean, American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Well, that was pretty good, though, I think. Anyways, welcome back to the Janchi Show.
Thank you.
I am Patrick here with my fellow co-hosts Nathan and KJ, and this
Yeah,
is a
boy.
show where Korean adoptees talk about Korean adoptee stuff. We also
Stuff.
celebrate our cultural heritage of being Korean, of being American, our adoptee community, and identities, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Like food.
And we are here again for another episode. How are you all doing today? As we started off, as we always do, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for asking. How are you doing, Ellie?
That's KJ's cat.
Who was in the frame? Sorry,
She's not mic'd up.
Nah, it's fine.
she's a little microphone
She's staring
shy.
at you, though. Meow. I don't know. All right.
That was a pretty good cat sound. I don't know if I liked it.
Wow.
KJ, how are you doing?
I'm tired and my brain hurts.
Yeah,
Your
so
first
we're a
week
couple
of your new
weeks in
job,
now,
right?
yeah.
Or 2 weeks?
Yes, I'm in week 2 of my new job, and we just got the painting done on our house, which is exciting. And honestly, like the job, like the work itself is not that hard. It's been the transition from remote work to in-person work, plus the transition of Pacific time to Central time,
Mm.
plus just being in the church world again is a lot. Oh, hello.
She just rose up.
So yeah, I mean, it's just been a lot, and then we had like a bunch of events back to back to back to back, and we are still having events and concerts. Like, it's my wife put it great. She's like, I've never been so stressed out about things that are so wonderful and exciting. So, yeah,
Cool.
that was like it's a lot, but my brain hurts. So that's where I'm at.
Transitions. Yeah.
There's a lot of
always-
stuff going on this month. You
Yeah.
gotta do
Indeed.
you gotta do all your personal stuff, and we're like already 2 weeks into APAM,
Yeah.
Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. So that's a lot. Are you doing anything for do you even have your mind on that and that side of things? Or are you like, I got too much other stuff going on?
I did leading up to it because I also recently took over social media for one of my organizations, and then this job is a communications job, so like also social media, but only in a way that stressed me out more and made me generally more sad.
Sure.
But like fortunately, social media is not like a major thing, so I can just kind of like let it be for a minute while I get settled. But no, it made me think about the history of Asian Americans in Christianity.
Mm.
And basically where I'm at is there aren't a ton of like leading voices that I can find. I didn't do that much research. I did like 2 hours of minimal research one afternoon before May. But so there aren't any like current leaders that I can really find, because I feel like any current leaders are either Asian and not talking about it, or they are Asian and like vocal leaders and no longer Christian, or are in the middle of leaving Christianity. For reasons that I assume are either deeply theological and or I gotta stop hanging out with white people, and or some combination of both, which I think is pretty accurate. I'm still personally wrestling with like Christianity being like, can I be Christian and not also be a part of the white man's religion? So that's fun. Yeah.
Interesting.
What have you been up to, Patrick, besides traveling the nation?
Yeah. World tour.
I mean, not a whole lot besides work. I think that it was a really good trip to travel on. For people that don't know, I was with our producer Jerry for the first week of APAM doing or going with him as he went and spoke to schools and corporations and other things or other entities about how do we empower people, Asian American students and employees, to speak up for themselves and find their own voice and be able to feel comfortable enough to advocate for themselves in those positions where we generally have not been able to. And it's been really incredible. And I think that we started in Chicago at the beginning of the week and ended up in New York for the last part of the trip. And that was my first time ever being in New York City.
Really?
And yeah, first time ever. It was it was awesome. I didn't have a ton of time to be able to like really get out and explore, but I was able to be in K-Town, go through different parts of Chinatown. Jerry was very gracious, drove me as we got in, because we drove in from New Hampshire.
He drove in New York?
Oh yeah. And
wow.
So it was
Scary.
fine. It was totally fine. But he drove me through like all the touristy stuff, so like Times Square by Central Park and everything, so I could kind of see that. And then we spent the bulk of our time in Soho by Chinatown. So that's where I did most of my exploration. But I will say that being in New York City specifically and being in those specific areas and experiencing Asian America from that perspective, like a coastal Asian America, was really, really powerful. It was kind of the same profound moment that I had when we were in LA in K-Town.
Mm-hmm.
And it really put into perspective for me, I think, having now experienced both coasts, the way that Asian America looks where I'm from. So where I grew up and like what it looks like in Indiana. And it's like wildly different. But I posted recently, one of my wife's students printed out a bunch of artwork from an Asian American artist and posted it up all around her school. And I was like, it's nice to have, after having been in New York specifically, seeing us being celebrated in a small Indiana town. It had an added significance, I think. And yeah, so that really set, I think, coming back and seeing that set the tone, I think, for the rest of this month, because I really want to be celebrating. And, you know, we're still in the midst of not such great times. And finding my way to that celebration has been good.
And are there things that you took away from both LA and New York's abundance of Asian culture and differences, I guess, between that and Indiana? Like things that you would like or don't like, or because I mean, I obviously know that there are differences, especially moving from California now to Colorado, and then being raised in Oklahoma. You know, I see all the differences, and there's certain things that I miss and like and don't like, and you know don't miss, things like that. But I want to hear your take on it, since now that you've seen both coasts and stuff.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway I had was that on the coast, you know, Asian America is very centralized, and you have there's a large concentration of everybody in one particular area. So you can really you can actually immerse yourself in the culture.
Right.
And
like a little Koreatown kind of
yeah,
feel.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you can be amongst your people essentially. And I think the biggest difference from that, what I'm really, again, like what really put that into perspective for me, is that like in Indiana, it's very spread out. And I think on this trip, you know, when we would go to the smaller towns, like Terre Haute or Hanover,
Terre Haute,
there are Asian students and there's an Asian population there. There are people that have found their way, like immigrant wise, to these small communities. And it just made me realize that in some places it's much more spread out. Like the movie Minari was really about that, you know, a Korean American family moving from Los Angeles to the country to like farm and be in a different pocket of America.
Yeah, small town Arkansas, which like rough.
Yeah. And I'm still in like reflective mode. You know, I'm still kind of coming down off the high of the trip, and I never find myself in that kind of space very often. And so to be part of that, and it really made me think like I want to bring that here. And I know, like, to Indianapolis, and I know that there has to be that already happening, and maybe it's just finding it and figuring out how we can pull disparate pieces together. But I think that was probably my biggest takeaway, and also that the food was absolutely amazing. And I felt like I was eating like a king, like all week.
You were like, I don't know if I can have Asian food in Indiana anymore.
Yeah, especially when we went to New York, like
and Los Angeles. Food is just gonna stick in your mind.
I had like gopchang, which is like intestine. For the first time, and it was amazing. I'm like, I could eat this all the time, and then I found out that if you ate that all the time, you'd probably end up with severe gout. So,
no.
So I don't know, but the food was absolutely phenomenal, and the communal aspect, like the whole night market event that we did on Friday night, really kind of drove that community aspect of it home, and it was really nice to be doing it during like APAM, because that was like the whole point of it. So, yeah.
I saw a little clip of you speaking too. What did you speak about?
So I spoke once. Jerry was gracious enough to invite me to speak at Terre Haute because I was quote unquote a local, having grown up in Indiana, and
so I'm taking Terre Haute as in Indiana because for us.
Oh, yeah. Terre Haute is a small town in Indiana that has actually 2 colleges in it.
It's also spelled Terrehaute.
You got it.
Real weird.
Yeah. But so there I spoke about just my experience as my Asian American experience because, Jerry explains it as we look the same. We're both Korean American, but our experiences as Korean Americans are wildly different.
Yeah.
And so I just got up there and spoke a little bit about my experience. And that went really well. It was nice to be able to speak to people who knew where where I grew up at. Like when I mentioned I grew up in Rensselaer, there were a lot of head nods.
They're like,
I know where that is. Yeah. And so like I felt like it could resonate a little bit more on that level, especially with like faculty and staff, because there was the 7 Asian students from that Jerry has worked with from their club, and then a bunch of different faculty and staff. So that was really nice to be able to speak about that. And then I actually got to MC the event in New York on Friday. So I didn't so much give a speech as just talked a bunch about all kinds of different things.
It's the same thing.
But just that,
You got to introduce people then too?
Yeah, so I was just introduced the event.
Jerry.
Except not like The Shining.
Here's
Jerry. Here's Jerry.
No, but yeah, I just shared about the event. We had 10 different vendors. So throughout the night, I would go up and talk to them each individually, have them share a little bit about what they did. And then the whole thing was to support 2 nonprofits, Apex for Youth and Heart of Dinner. And Heart of Dinner is a nonprofit in New York City that provides meals to the elderly Asian American community in the city. And so what they do is they hand deliver them in brown paper bags, and they have those decorated by volunteers. And so they had brought 100 bags, and that we wanted to get decorated by the people that came to the event. And so that was my whole goal. I'm like, if I can get those bags decorated, I will consider what I had done here tonight a success. And we did it, and it was amazing. Again, it was a very community-driven style thing because it's a night market. Like it was meant to emulate, like a Korean night market where you go and you can shop at all the different places, get a drink, have a bite to eat, but you're with your people and, you're having a good time. So it was awesome.
Sounds fun. I enjoy night markets. There's one out here in Denver that I have yet to go to, but it is on my list. Sure.
Yeah, it was a great time.
A night market in Denver?
Yeah. It's they call it the Denver Bazaar.
Oh, nice.
So they have like little. I would call it a night.
Night court.
No, like a night farmers market kind of a thing. I think, but we'll see. I haven't gone, but it looks fun.
Well, what are you doing for APAM? Do you have anything? Have you been thinking about it at all? I know you got a lot going on too. So
yeah, this month is very busy. Mainly because it's the last month of school for my kids. It's also my oldest son's birthday. It's also there's a large event that I'm helping to coordinate that is Asian related. It's for the Asian corporate entrepreneur leaders that I'm with, and we're doing like a culture collab. And it'll be actually on this Sunday. We're doing different booths for different cultures. So there'll be Thai, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese, Hmong. And it should be fun. Each one will have a different attire. So I'm going to wear my hanbok again.
Nice.
And then have a few little Janchi bags for people to purchase if they want. But yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun, and it was something that we kind of put together because it is APAM and things like that. And I've been looking into a little bit of the culture things, and I've been trying to, like, of course, market for it. And I started noticing that I was I don't know at what point it was probably last month, and I don't know when this happened, but AAPI switched and turned into AANHPI.
Right.
On PI.
Yeah.
On P.
Yeah. So I had the extra letters are for Native Hawaiian, and I'm not sure when that added into the acronym, but now I'm using that on all my posts and all my things. So I don't know,
Well,
it's
just
good.
about
I'm learning.
acknowledging and recognizing the Native Hawaiian community as well.
Exactly. And not just calling them
month.
Pacific Islanders. Yeah. So I thought that was nice.
But, well, at the end of the day, I think it's hard to be super all-inclusive, even with just AAPI or even just Asian American in general, because people from different countries can feel excluded or left out of that, even just Asian American label in general. So, yeah, I don't think there's any one specific right way, but it's just about how you utilize it and acknowledge those other cultures and countries.
Yeah. And I'm sure they feel, included when you do use it. And so it's good to add that plus the regular AAPI and all the other stuff. But so doing some research, I did find out also, which I don't know if you guys knew, last week was the passing of Norman Mineta.
I saw that.
Oh yeah, so he's
I don't know what that's
a
about.
congressman from California for 10 terms. He helped form the TSA. He helped form all kinds of what was the I'm trying to remember the name of the bill that he passed, that he co-sponsored, I guess. I had it down and I forgot it already. But
how dare you not have all the facts directly at the top of your head at all times?
I know, it's because I just
you fool.
But he was in the Japanese internment camps as a kid, and was a mayor of San Jose. And actually, I didn't know the San Jose airport is named after him. It's actually the Norman Mineta International Airport. So, but he worked under both Clinton and Bush in their presidential cabinets. Did a lot of work, but he passed away last week, age 90. So, we made a little post about him and remembrance. So hearing a little bit more about different, supporters and stuff of the month. That's been good. Other than that, I haven't done any major posts on my Instagram like I did last November.
Are your kids' schools doing anything for APAM that you're aware of?
They are not.
Do they do any acknowledgments or anything?
I wouldn't think for that. I don't.
Is it too young? I mean, I don't think there's a too young to be obviously celebrating other cultures.
Texas is arguing that it's too young.
Oh,
it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't believe that there's.
Well, you don't live in Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't.
I mean, I haven't mentioned it to them, but at the same time, it was an interesting timing, though. Last week, I was talking to Grayson, who's my 4-year-old, and he made a couple comments about he saw something that was Korean, and he goes, "Daddy's Korean," and I'm like, "Yes, I am." And I was like, "And you're 50% Korean." He goes, "Oh," and it was kind of like he had forgotten.
It was like
that,
Father, I cannot do math.
And I was like, "And you're 25% Chinese and 25% Japanese."
Man, just blasting him over with those percentages so soon.
Yeah, he's got to learn percentages.
Still Korean, Chinese, and Japanese. He's all of those. He inhabits all of those.
Clearly, if he's talking about race, he's already mastered a graduate level core study, so he can handle some math.
If he's talking about that, he's clearly been indoctrinated by CRT at whatever grade you're in at 4.
Well, we sometimes when we walk home, we practice counting 1 to 10 in those 4 different languages. So just throwing it in there just to keep him active and knowing that he is multiple ethnicities, and I don't want him to forget that like in a way like I did, that I was Korean. So
Sure.
yeah.
What about you, KJ? Where you're at now? I know you said that you took over the social media and that you kind of were talking about it, but is it like something that is talked about openly, or is it just kind of like a mention in a bulletin?
No. No, super not. And
Okay.
it's been my privilege to be in positions where I can say things about that. And actually, literally just today, I was talking with my boss at Kingdom One and talking about APAM because he was like, he didn't know what the month was. And I was like, well, here's what it is. And he's like, okay,
Mhm.
cool. You want to take point on that? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, dude, I don't even know like Asian American leaders in Christianity, like I said earlier. And he was like, oh yeah, well here's like this guy and this guy and this person and whatever. They've all done some things, like created some products to help the church, whatever. But he spent a fair amount of time out on the West Coast, in Southern California, and it just reminded me, even while you were talking about being in LA, being in New York, and then being in the Midwest, and how different the Asian American experience is. Like, it's just so like I didn't have any, uh, certainly not any spiritual mentors, but even really any mentors in general who looked like me from a race standpoint or an ability standpoint or whatever. But also like that's in Dallas, Texas, and most of the Koreans here are immigrants or first gen, second gen. I don't know how we talk about that. I gotta look it up. But yeah, so it's just like there's not a lot of like deep rooted history in
Mhm.
Texas with Asian Americans in large quantities like exist on the coasts. And it just reminded me like when you don't live in the coasts or near major congregational areas of Asian Americans, and it's APAM, and it's anything like that happens to our community, we might feel, but we feel it in isolation because there are just so few of us around, and so it's just much harder to find that community, build that safe space. Like it just works. You have to work so much harder. And so even thinking about the person that you said it was at Emily's school, right?
Mhm.
Who put up the art. I was like, that is so brave because
Yeah.
like when you stand up, even if you're standing up in solidarity with people around your country, you stand up as the only person in your classroom, the only person in your school, the only person in your job, one of 3 people in the county, one of 9 people, and like, like whatever that is, like it's so small. Whereas like when communities on the coast, when there are large communities, like even San Francisco Chinatown, like the oldest Chinatown in America, like they when they stand up, there's like thousands, tens of thousands that stand up at once.
Right.
And it says something. And so even though yes, you are standing in solidarity with them, it's just like it's uh it's totally different when you exist in those spaces and you're one of hopefully 2 and then one of one adoptee or one of one like stateside born American, natural born. Is that what we call? I don't know. Whatever. You know what I'm
American born.
saying? Yeah,
I know they
that's
do like
yeah,
the ABC, the American born Chinese, like
yeah,
so
yeah,
that's
yeah,
always
yeah.
considerate.
So yeah. So it's been a whole like that's such a weird thing, At the same
Mhm.
time, really grateful for the internet. I recently found Tracy Park, who is a zine artist, and she just draws, I think, just with pencil. And
Nice.
they're really, really wonderful comics. I just blew her up in my stories one day because I was following on P AANHPI
Mm.
as a hashtag on Instagram, and they're just like the cutest. You know what? Actually, I think of it as like if Jennifer uh, Patel could draw and did draw, like they're like they have a similar like way of communicating and like a similar sense of
Sure.
humor and all that stuff. Um, which I think is why I'm drawn to it so much. But they're just really cute and really funny and really warm and heartfelt and make me feel really proud to be Korean. Which I think like for me, I'm coming pretty actively into just being okay with who I am. And even like being okay with I don't know. I went to a Korean restaurant and I didn't feel a need to speak in Korean, even though it's a place that I'd gone and like spoke
Yeah.
Korean in before. I was like, this is where I am. I'm good with where I'm at. Like there's a level of contentedness there that I'm really grateful for. So I think I'm able to spend this month like really in kind of one-on-one ways introducing people to my culture and not worrying about like all of Asian America so much and like inclusivity in a broad sense, but rather inclusivity in a deep sense and just saying like this thing is mine and I am going to share it with you. So like Sarah and I took my mother-in-law to that Korean place and she was like, I don't even know what I would order. I'm like, I'll take care of you.
Right.
But come and enjoy this food. And she loved it. And I was like, that's all I want is like just a small entry point into who I am now, and who I am deeply, and so just being able to live into that has been a good personal celebration for the month.
That's cool.
I love that. I think that I feel really similar in terms of like the contentedness of sharing my own Asian American experience and not necessarily feeling like I have to be the gatekeeper of all Asian American experiences. And another thing, like especially on a food note, like that was something I really felt like I was really experiencing for the first time was because we ate at so many different Asian restaurants and
like not even just Korean restaurants.
Yeah, but it's such a communal like experience, and it made me think about the difference between how we order meals in America, like as Americans, and how other cultures eat food. Because it's like you order a bunch of food for everybody, you share it, and you're eating and you're drinking, and then it's like, oh, well, maybe we'll order some more, and everybody digs into that. Whereas in an American style of eating, it's like you order your one meal, everybody orders their own separate meals, everybody pays separately. It's like it's a very singular experience.
You give them a side eye if they're like, "Can I try a bite?"
Yeah,
like, I ordered this for myself.
And it sucks because I've done that I used to be that way. Like I used to be the person who says, "Don't touch my food. I'm gonna eat it.
No sharing."
And still that way a little bit. But I think I really felt like I experienced the communalness of sharing a meal in that way, and it was really powerful. And I felt like I can now do that with like my family and stuff, and I don't feel necessarily the shame or the fear of stepping into that and saying, hey, come eat a meal at an Asian restaurant with me and I will help order and do all of that.
I'll be your cultural oppa.
I'll
even
be
if you're older than me,
exactly,
or young, depending on the gender, whatever.
Exactly. But yeah, that was just yeah.
So along those lines, I felt a little bit worrisome about the event that I'm helping coordinate this Sunday because I'm at the Korean booth, and so it was a little.
Aren't you also the only Korean at the Korean booth?
I am not.
Oh,
so
okay.
I was at the beginning.
Okay,
and so at the beginning of it, I volunteered to be the person, and then I started asking a couple people. I have my friend Liz and Lana. Both of them are Korean adoptees as well. And then they got a chef who's Korean, and he's going to be cooking with his team there. So he's actually going to be cooking the Korean dishes.
You don't have to cook it either.
So I'm not cooking anything, and I wasn't planning on cooking anything. So, but yeah, I was just worried that people were going to ask me like Korean questions because this is a cultural kind of informational. I'm wearing a hanbok. I mean, I'm all worried. They're gonna ask me questions about it even, and so things like that.
But it's an opportunity for you to lean into the adoptee experience of
exactly
being, like I'm inhabiting all of my culture right now, and I'm sharing that with you. So,
and that's something that I think maybe again in a way is a culture of itself, right? Because they're going to ask me about that, and I'm going to say no, I'm a Korean American adoptee, or and so they can understand that side of it. And I'm sure they will find it fascinating too, because we do. So,
well, I think right now is the perfect time to be talking about that specific community and culture anyway, just because of everything that's going on in the news. But that is for another episode because all of this food talk is making me hungry. So I think we should maybe think about sliding into our snacky time.
Snack time.
Snack time.
Snack.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. Snacky Time.
Snacky Time.
Snacky Time. I don't know. I'm just gonna change it up and call it something different each time.
I like it.
Keeps it interesting, right? Well, this one has a lot of Korean on it, so I'm gonna defer to you guys.
Yes, Patrick, our resident Hangul master.
Don't defer to me, even though I feel like I should be better, more equipped after my last week to be able to do this. I don't think that I am. So
It's okay. The main branding is like some of the hardest for me to read. So
Because it looks like handwritten in a way, almost like
yeah,
like
yeah.
a lot
But
of
handwritten
squigglies.
Korean is just like I don't know. They take shortcuts that don't always make sense to my brain. But it says Sapporo Ramen. So in English, that's Sapporo Ramen. And in further English, that's a type of flavor and a type of noodle.
Yeah,
But
and
it
the
says Korean
bottom-
fried biscuit. So I don't know.
I was gonna say that's the English part. Korean fried biscuit, Sapporo Ramen. So that's the easy part there, and it's got a cute little cat on the front saying "one" with his finger. I don't know. I don't know what he's saying.
It's like a dojo cat, not to be confused with doja cat. And then the Korean next to that says "pasak pasak 맛있는 Sapporo Ramen 야무지게 드세요." So, of those words, I understand 맛있는, which is flavor, Sapporo Ramen, which is Sapporo Ramen, jjigae, which is soup, or I think it's soup or stew.
or
It's
stew.
one of the two.
I think it's stew. Jjigae.
Well, one of them is soup and the other one is stew. There's jjigae and then there's I'm blanking on the other one. And then duseo I think is sundubu. Duseo I think is like to give. So I don't know if it's saying like give me Sapporo flavored ramen snack soup.
Oh, so his hand is up because he's trying to get the attention of the waiter.
Or maybe it's giving it to you because there's no, so it's like, let me give this to you kind of thing. I don't know. Korean, this is why Korean translation can be difficult sometimes.
But we have to shout out to Tia Stark because she's the one who sent these to us. So
shout out.
Thank you, Tia.
Shout out.
감사합니다.
Yes. 감사합니다 for these very tasty looking fried noodles, which are hard to open. Okay. Got it.
Okay.
All right.
F on the opening the regular American ship way. So I'm gonna go ahead.
F on opening the regular Korean way.
Wow. To say these are crunchy would be an understatement. It's like the crunchy of crunches.
They look like the little things you put on salads or casseroles.
And that's what I thought it was going to be kind of like.
Like the fried onion?
Oh.
Right?
You were not joking about.
I was not joking. It's the crunchiest of crunchy snacks I think I've ever had. It's got a really tasty flavor, though.
I kind of do want to put this on like a pasta or something for an extra crunch.
I want to put it on
like a salad or something.
An Asian salad,
or like an American salad,
Asian chicken salad,
or like a Spanish salad,
or an Italian Greek.
Wow, too far?
I don't know. No. This is good though.
Hard, very crunch.
It is very crunchy though.
Very crunchy.
Wow.
For anyone who has teeth problems, do not
avoid this.
What kind of teeth problems do you have to not eat these?
Anything where your teeth might fall out. I don't know.
If you have tender gums,
delicate teeth. Yeah, I don't know.
I had a little cut on my gum from something.
But yeah, I mean,
just starting.
I've actually had really crunchy things before, and actually took out like a little piece of a filling because it was so crunchy. So
that is intense.
Yeah, and it's almost wow.
I used to have one of those like permanent retainers, like the wire on the back of my teeth. And one time I was eating a homemade turkey sandwich, and the part of the turkey sandwich got stuck behind that bar.
Ew.
And then pushed it off of my teeth. It was disgusting.
Interesting.
That also sounds mega painful.
Thanks for that visual.
It really wasn't that painful. It just kind of fell out. It was hurt when I bit it and was like, oh, that doesn't taste like turkey. Anyways.
I don't know if it's just
snack portion.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just me too, because we have earphones in and things like that, but it just sounds louder when you're eating it, right?
So Nathan, have you had Sapporo ramen before?
Not
know
that
what
I
that
can think
flavor
of. I've had
stands
Sapporo
for?
beer, but I don't know. I have not had that particular type of ramen. I've had a lot of ramens, but I had to look it up too. I was thinking Sapporo. I was like, what
Sapporo
does it have to do
is
with
a
beer?
Japanese beer, isn't it? That's what I thought, right?
It's also a Japanese town.
Oh, so maybe it's a regional ramen.
Yeah, it might be a regional snack, maybe.
Maybe it's like the noodles, because they're not like the super classic. I don't know. They just seem extra skinny compared to maybe the more standard ramen noodle size, even the cheap ramen noodle. So maybe it's the type of noodle and not the flavor. It's good though. I really like this.
I like them.
Well, yeah,
I like
it
whatever
also
this
said
flavor
though,
is.
It said Sapporo is also a hearty type of ramen, sometimes known as Miso Ramen. So like made with a red miso paste.
Interesting.
But I don't know. I definitely dig it, and yeah, I think it would be great as a garnish on something as well. But the only thing I do not like, which I guess is standard these days, is the warning that says consuming these can expose you to chemicals that can cause cancer. I don't like that. Yeah, I know. So
where
it says on the back, it says expose you to chemicals including acrylamide.
I think it's acrylamide.
Acrylamide.
If I
don't know.
guess.
I have no clue what that is. I don't know why it's in my snack, but potentially harmful.
Thank you to the state of California for telling me. I had no idea.
I know.
Yeah, I feel like I've consumed too much now.
Yeah, now I feel like I should stop eating this.
I'm sure that warning is on everything, though, honestly.
Everything that tastes good is always bad for you. I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew this was too good to be true. Nuclear waste.
Well, let's jump into ratings. Not to say that the cancer warning has been tarnished by my.
I feel like my rating is now skewed because of.
I thought Nathan was just complaining about the allergy warning again. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't care to know about allergies. Okay, well, Nathan's getting a phone call on his landline. So
this is a recurring feature on the show.
Yeah, Nathan gets a call on his landline. Oh, hello, Ellie. Why are you in here?
She's like, I want some of that cancer treat.
The doors were closed. How did you get in here? No.
Hi, Ellie.
Okay. All right, ma'am.
All right. Well, now that
KJ. Whoa. The cat's triggering the soundboard now.
Over.
Nice.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid that. Okay.
That's hilarious. All right. I'm going to rate this snack 3.5 out of 5. I was going to give it probably a 4.5 as a garnish, but I will say that the warning did bring the rating down a little bit for me.
Oh, no.
Other than that, I think I really like the flavor of it's just on the cusp of having like a spicy kick to it at the end, which I really enjoy. So 3.5 out of 5.
Okay. I mean, just so you know, I mean, the fact that warning is on there, just California likes to put that on a lot of things.
So they're just slapping that warning on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I'll
anything with
just
acrylamide.
Just before,
I
mean, not that you've already rated it, but acrylamide is a substance that forms through a natural chemical reaction between sugars and asparagine, an amino acid in plant-based foods. I don't know. It's a reaction.
That doesn't sound so bad.
It doesn't sound bad.
The warning makes it sound worse.
Well, it sounds like combining sugar and protein makes cancer. So
I mean, yeah, like
that's what I just heard you say.
We're all doomed. That's all I just.
I'm assuming it's at a certain threshold is where
it
that
has a preservative, has sodium nitrate, has artificial sugars, has I don't know.
Well, how many nitrates are you going to give the snack?
I would give this one 4 nitrates because it is crunchy.
Wow.
4 nitrates.
It is tasty flavor. I like the crunch. I gave it a 4 and not a 5 because I almost feel like it's almost too crunchy. But other than that, yeah, I dig it. I want to try it on other things.
Oh.
I don't even know who it's made by. Did we even comment on who it was made by?
No, we did not.
I think we just dove right in.
Imported by Show International.
Well, there's a sticker that says HACCP.
I think that's just a
health thing.
Yeah.
Oh, if this matters, these are also expired. Maybe that's like the extra crunch of it.
That's the extra crunch.
that could be the extra
Were we
crunch.
just like
we gotta
really
get
slow
some.
and were we really
Yeah,
slow
we've
in
had this
eating
one
these?
for a while though.
All right.
It's not Tia's fault.
Yeah, I thought you guys would just eat it sooner.
Yeah.
We did not.
No, we put it in the queue for snack time, which usually means about 3 months out.
Don't send us anything.
But I
fresh.
still like it. I think it's pretty good. So, KJ, what are you?
I'm gonna give it 3.25 amino acids out of 5. It is small enough and crunchy enough that I'm like kind of scared to eat it. Like if I were to catch it between my front teeth just right, it would like hurt real bad, you know?
Yep.
And I'm not the greatest masticator in the world. So that feels like a pretty legitimate fear. But otherwise I really like the flavor. Like if it was bigger or less crunchy, it would be right up there. And then also, the cans are, because I am not a native Californian, so I'm not used to
You're
just
not used to
seeing
that label.
cancer warnings and brushing it
Same.
off like it's nothing. So
Same.
because I'm not as jaded as you, Nathan,
Sorry.
I we went from a 3.5 to 3.25. Honestly, I don't know. Like, I don't like how I don't like how difficult it was to open, and B, like I feel like I immediately have to like snip off part of it because like it is so tough. My hand doesn't fit in there properly, and I can't like grab a proper handful. So I don't know. I think the design of the bag and whatnot could have been better, which I think is why it's putting it at a 3.25. But the food itself is really good, so A+ on that part. But overall, that's where we're at.
I have to
Packaging
add
plays a
one
big
more
role.
thing. It is a fairly small bag, but it's a fairly dense bag. I feel like they filled it very well. The entire bag is one serving, and the entire serving is 100 grams, but it says 434 calories.
Very specific, 434 calories.
So there you go. But
There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
I think.
Oh, it's really specific. It's 9.39 grams. I've never seen like grams like in fats and carbs and proteins where it goes to 2 decimal places.
Yeah.
Very
That
specific.
is surprising.
Total carbs 77.42 grams.
Well, A+ on your math. Whoever makes these Sapporo Ramen Korean fried biscuit thingies. Yeah, overall pretty good.
Thank
that
you
has
again,
been,
Tia.
Yes, thank you so much. That has
Thanks,
been our
Tia.
show, the Janchi Show. You can find us on all of the social platforms at Janchi Show. You can send us a message to janchishow@justlikemedia.com. You can support the show by going to janchishow.com/support. You could leave us a voicemail if you wanted to at it's been a minute 972-677-8867.
You got it.
Yes, 677.
I'm pretty sure that that's the right number.
I'm gonna write it down one of these days.
I'm just saying this number of like, there's a chance that it's a rando's phone number. Amazing. I hope that so many people have been calling in to just the wrong number. That'd be amazing.
Apologies to whoever owns that number.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You can
Please forward us those messages.
or don't. You can find me at KJ Relke wherever I want to be found on the internet.
You can find me at Patrick in the World on Instagram.
I am in Nowaka on Instagram.
And that has been our show. We're the Feisty Boys, and until next week, Janchi, hey yo.
Yo, 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 yo.